Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you, Lori.
Good morning, Lauren, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing good for a Wednesday. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Okay, so as all the guests are signing in, I've done this new while we're signing in, I share something. So I did something so fun this week. Are you ready for what I did?
Ready. I think we're ready.
Yeah, might be ready, might be ready. Here it comes.
This is such a good photo.
Yeah, so what happened is I went on this trail ride. I've been wanting to do it for so long. I'd been on a cattle drive a long time ago, like in my 20s.
Oh,
So
no
I
way.
that I could sign up for this trail ride, an hour and a half through the Black Hills of South Dakota. And when you took off, they had it situated where they let you know that there was a professional photographer there and they would show you the pictures later. And if you wanted to buy them, you could. And it was like $10. I was like, oh my God, isn't that a great picture? But I tell you what, I had so much fun. And to all of everybody in the audience that knows me so well, I was sitting in the saddle and just rocking back and forth, going through this beautiful scenery. And I had this profound thought, Lauren. I thought, you know what? I really don't know much about a horse, but was kind of like a live carnival. They followed each other automatically. I didn't have
Okay.
to do too much, right? And
Okay.
I thought to myself, I don't have to be in control. I just have to sit back, enjoy this experience, rock in the saddle of this horse, and other people are more knowledgeable than me and totally in control. I had a wrangler in the front, a wrangler in the middle. I was like, I am just going to sit in a moment of no control and just let it be. So that was my story for starting this show today, and we are got another one that's going to start with this theme. So I am going to let you kick it off. I think we got most people signed in. So Lauren, take it away.
Will do. I love the just let it be.
We don't do that enough.
No, no, definitely not. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared, get
Yep,
these
we're
buttons
good.
to work correctly. How's it looking, Lori?
Yep, it's looking good.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I know we've come to a steady number right now, but I know there are tons more people who will be joining us, Lori. So I'll go ahead and start this intro and then we'll get into the meat of the show. Good morning again. My name is Lauren Simpson. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We're a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, and we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Now, our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. So for the Los Angeles Regional Network, we have several locations, and you can see those on the, the map in front of you. You'll see that we're in Camarillo, Santa Clarita, all the way over to Pasadena, out to Laverne, throughout Los Angeles, as well as the South Bay areas, and then down into Long Beach. Now, I mentioned those tax dollars. I mentioned our services being free. Here's a deeper dive into what it is that you'll receive. So we offer no cost business advising. We also offer virtual trainings, and those virtual trainings, of course, are at no cost. Now, as it relates to those business advisors, we have a ton of experts in various fields. I'm talking marketing, as well as if you're just starting out and you're looking to create a business plan, we have people for you. If you are a handyman and you're looking to go into construction and actually become incorporated, we have people for you. If you are looking to get your numbers under control, I don't know if you're anything like me, numbers tend to scare me a little bit, but we have tons of financial advisors and those who have expertise in taxes that can assist you. You might even get lucky enough to sit with our guru of numbers, Miss Lori Williams, who just makes numbers feel so easy. I don't even know how else to describe it. She's just amazing to work with. So that's for our business experts. And then we also offer virtual trainings, and those are comprehensive workshops that assist you in creating, adapting, and growing your businesses. So please be sure to get in contact with us. We can't wait to get started with you. You can reach us by phone, 866-588-7232, or go online, smallbizla.org/new client. Now, if you've been lucky enough to reach us, but you're outside of our network, that means that you are outside of the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, or Ventura counties, please go to americansSBDC.org/find your SBDC. And with that, I'm going to stop my screen share. Quick housekeeping, everyone. Please, let's be sure to put all questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A, and then we'll reserve the chat for the little party that we tend to have on these on our show. So the chat will be reserved for any links that Lori and information that Lori would like to share with you, as well as any kind of commentary you all want to have back and forth. But again, if you have questions, throw them into the Q&A. With that, Lori, I'm going to give it over to you. Good morning again.
Good morning, Lauren. In fact, during one of my financial literacy series that I teach yesterday, I got this great email from one of the attendees, and she said, I am so glad that during the show you mentioned that you are afraid of math and never did math very well in high school. And that's why I tell everybody, math, I shed tears over math, and look at me now. And so that's why I always say, if you can understand just A plus B equals B plus A, some simple things, you've got finance. You just need the right teacher, which is so true. So let's get started today, guys. I started this Mythbuster thing, and I've heard great reviews about it. So here's today's Mythbuster. You're going to love this one. Companies often start and grow through outside investments. This could not be further from the truth. And this is one of my favorite Mythbusters that I talk about all the time, because especially as we got the Hollywood and the Shark Tanks, it's given this false belief that there is all of these outside investors that are going to invest in ideas. And that is just simply not so. The actual truth is they estimate that about 92% of the companies are funded through their personal savings and credit cards of the owners, with the bulk fortunately funded through credit card debt. So when you look at outside investors, and having worked with investors and investment banks and been a banker in the past, I can tell you that they want you to get to a certain point where you have eliminated all of the risk. You have created a product or service, you've sold it into the marketplace, you've proved you can produce it, and there's enough demand. Many of the companies that we create today don't have the type of business model for expansion which would make an investor interested in it. Now, with that being said, this is the part I want you to hear the most. That is not a bad thing, not a bad thing. We have been shown to believe that this concept of lifestyle business is bad, and that's not so. If at the end of the game, you created a company, it gave you the ability to live the life you wanted, you paid for a house, you brought children up, whatever your dreams were, you succeeded. And when you are looking to start or grow the company, take your thoughts down, have your dreams big, but take it down to the incremental steps and go slow. I had a conversation just yesterday with somebody that was looking at a brick and mortar. They were not necessarily needing to have a brick and mortar, but they thought that should be their plan. They were looking at emptying their savings, et cetera. And I said, why? If you do a little pop-up and you make some sales and you get a following, and that causes you to grow, and then when you have this following and some cash flow from the company, you expand to the next series, whatever that may be, that's a wonderful growth strategy. If you grow too fast, you invest and you lose the capital that was your savings, you can't go back from that. So you can always go forward if you go small and incremental, when it's very hard, not that it's impossible, but it's hard to recover when you've thrown everything in. Plus, if you grow very slowly and smartly, you can take time to let the marketplace give you feedback. You can identify if the demand is different than you thought. You can change your product and service. You can change your infrastructure. So in this Mythbuster, although I'm saying it in a way that people can think, oh, I can't get outside investment. In actuality, I can tell you from my experiences, I have seen more entrepreneurs be harmed emotionally when they did get outside investment, because suddenly they didn't have the control, they didn't have the love, they had a higher stress level than they had previously. So that's my myth buster for today. Now, as far as upcoming series, I've got session 3 on the financial literacy series coming around the corner. And then I have actually, oh, yes. And then I have my July series. You know me, I always get messed up with dates. I have my July series, and some of these are in July, and some of these have already happened in June and will happen. But the good news is Lauren is on top of everything. I maybe don't change the slide, but she has every date on every upcoming webinar I'm giving, and she's throwing it in the chat for you so you can have all that information for you. Okay, upcoming shows. I have Arnell coming on next week again from Arnell Originals. Some of our frequent flyers that seen the show that Arnell was on, she created, ran, and sold her company over a period of time. Our conversation was so in depth, and I felt like we didn't get to touch on many of the things that were really interesting to the audience, how to negotiate the sale of the company, et cetera. So she's going to come back on. We're going to pick up from there. Then I'm so excited. June 28th, we got Emma back on, our frequent flyer, Emma, and we're going to talk about all those things that Emma brings to us from experience and wisdom on any topic imaginable on growing, starting, and succeeding in business. And then announcement, as a reminder, I decided July 5th, no show. July 4th is the day before, and you guys are going to be out having fun. You won't even know what's going on by July 5th. So I thought all of us are going to take a vacation, and we will be back the next week. Okay, so with that, let's get into today's theme. You know, last week we got a lot of great reviews about our conversation. And as you guys know, I've been really trying to delve into looking at the world from opportunity as well as reality. I guess that would be the 2 words I'm trying to mirror, is taking advantage and being excited about the opportunity, but being grounded in reality, whether that's financial or organizational or funding, but whatever that reality is that allows you to succeed in what I call the life monopoly game that we're living when we talk about business. So I'm very excited to have our next guest on. Judy Hersch is the founder and chief executive officer of Evolution Solutions, a professional coaching and training organization leading individuals, groups, and organizations worldwide in building extraordinary lives, businesses, relationships, and results. Doesn't that sound exciting? Judy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's a joy to be with you.
You know, I was telling Judy, we were talking before the show, I said, the minute I talked with her and learned about her background, I was like, you've got to be on my show. I said, that's it, you're on it. You got to pick a date. So we planned this some time ago. So I'm so excited to be here. So Judy, let's start. Tell us about your company. Tell us about your background. How did you get into us? Let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay, super. Wonderful. So I, many years was in the space of project management, training and development, and major corporations for the most part, pharmaceutical industry, IT industry. And I would do coaching on the side, evenings, weekends, and sometimes in the space of the corporate realm. But what I found, Lori, was that I was enjoying doing that coaching. And even, when my boss would come into my office and say, hey, I need some guidance on this, right? That wasn't part of the regular job. I was loving that more. So it was always in my mind that that's something I love to do, but life, takes you along and you think, well, I can't really do that as a full-time career. And it wasn't until my father got really sick, to be, just completely transparent. He got ALS, was diagnosed with ALS. And at that point, I wanted to completely focus my time and attention in helping him. So I left and I couldn't, traveling around the world with my corporate work wasn't going to enable me to do that. So left that and decided this was a time to start my own company where I could make my own hours and help my father and be there with him. And that's really was, sometimes these things in life come to us, and a few things happen. I wanted to do that and be there for my dad. And it was also a wake-up call that life is so short. not to really do what we love and invest in our passions. We tend to kind of get caught up in what's going on out there, and we forget, what is this really what I want?
Yeah.
Is this really honoring my passions, or am I just kind of getting caught up in that? So that really made me stop and pull back. And it was the greatest thing I've ever done. Being able not only to be able to be there for my father, but also starting this company where I'm helping, individuals, groups, and organizations all around the world. So it's been really a dream that I don't know that I ever would have done without having that wake up call in my life. So sometimes there's these hidden things and these very tragedies in your life, these difficulties in your life, but we have to really seize on those and step into those.
It's so true. And anytime something happens, I always try to think, well, what is this telling me? What opportunity is coming?
Yeah.
And, having also had time in corporate America, I realize that as much as that's kind of fun and exciting because you have bigger type experiences, at the end of the day, the connections you have in one-on-one with the smaller individuals are so much better for me personally, because I got this concept where doing a lot of turnarounds at the higher level and CFO work, I was like, all I'm doing is really helping people to continue to have a maid and everything, which is fine in that world, but it wasn't giving me, who came from a very small little country town, that same feeling. So I completely understand. And I love what you're saying, because, I know a lot of people in the audience, as well as people I talk to, they're kind of at this point, especially with the pandemic, where they're saying, wait a minute, let me rethink. Is this really what I want to do? And they may have been pushed a little bit about it, going forward because of the experience of the pandemic, or it might just be dissatisfaction and reassessment of what should happen next. So I think that what you're explaining about your situation is a situation that many find themselves in. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting about your background, Judy, is, as you said, a project manager. So being a project manager and then being a consultant, you have to understand organization and stuff, getting kind of it together and not being all over the place, if you will. So what I wanted to start with is an all over the place concept. One of the things that I see a lot with entrepreneurs is they have this, and I'll do a little impression. Okay, Judy. Well, I think we're going to go in this market and then this market, and then we're going to deliver this product. Oh, and this product too, and this one, and they're all over. And I tell them that,
Yeah.
your funds, you don't have funding to do that. You've got to stay focused. Can we just talk about staying focused and define goals, and take it from there, Judy? Because I know you got a lot of information you could share on that question.
Yeah, about it is easy to get distracted, and have that shiny object thing, because there's so many things, especially now, everything's such a fast pace and things are easy to get to. And so one of the first things, and this is, I'm just going to explain what I've been successful with and what I've helped my clients be successful with. And that is setting and some of this may sound like things we've heard before, but I want to go a little bit deeper than that. So we have I usually suggest that we set like a 3-year vision for ourselves. First of all, where do I want to be 3 years from today? Why 3 years? Because if I say, well, where do I want to be a year from now, the mind kind of gets in the way and can kind of evaluate, what I can do in a year's time, right?
Right.
But if I set a 3-year vision, you really can't grasp necessarily where you're going to be. So you tend to be freer in what you're thinking about. And then we're not just setting it out there as an idea, we're writing it down. Study after study after study in neuroscience talks about writing things down and getting really clear on a 3-year vision. That increases your chances of success hugely. So you write down a 3-year vision, and then you start to create a plan from a vision that you really have. So if I want to achieve that vision, I want to be there 3 years from today, what goals do I need to set in place that will roll up to a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? So I start creating goals. I start creating milestones for myself. And what resources do I need? What in terms of money, training, what additional research do I need to do? What more information? And then here's something a lot of us don't think about. Who do I need to be? Right?
Mhm.
What new thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviors do I need to start cultivating? Because not to get too philosophical, but our outer world is really created by what we're doing in our inner world. It's not just what's the economy doing and, all of these things, but it's also about who am I being? How am I showing up? Because if I want to create a different life, but I'm trying to use the same mindset, it's really challenging to get there, right? It's like the same that the old adage that you can't create, or you can't solve a problem at the level of thinking that the problem was created at. But it's similar to that in terms of who do I need to be, and how do I need to approach and perceive things so that I can start to create a new reality for myself. So it's who do I need to be? Not only am I writing this down in written form in terms of what I want and who I need to be, and maybe some of the skills I need to have as well, but I'm also, studies again in neuroscience have shown that it's also about, can I describe it and visualize it? Because if we can also add the visualization piece to it, we're 1.2 to 1.4 times more likely to be able to accomplish that, even than just writing it alone. So that's really powerful. And then the other thing that I always tell my clients, and I do myself, is what are the steps that I can take today? I take steps every day. It doesn't mean I have an out external action that I'm doing every day, but also who am I being today? And I'm deciding, physical actions, but also is this thought, this behavior, this approach getting me closer to where I want to be, or just kind of keeping me in the same place? So there's something we can actually do every day. And then we can maybe evaluate at the end of the week. What did I do this week? And make adjustments accordingly. But we're constantly it requires self-awareness, and it requires being present, not letting the outer world and the busyness and the urgency of everything, which is easier said than done, I realize, control me. But it becomes a pattern mindset in a positive way. You're teaching yourself how to think, act, and feel in ways that are in alignment with the future you want to create, versus just reacting to the outer world. So you start to feel more like a creator of your world versus just a reactor of, a responder to everything outside of you. Big difference.
There was so much in there to unpack that was just great words of wisdom. I'm going to come back and I'm going to just choose a few aspects that I was struck by. And one of them was immediately when you started speaking and you talked about what do I need? And you used the word resources. And then you talked about 1 year versus 3 years. Now, Judy, and I'm going to let you form this however you want, but what I notice is that if I can just take two extremes to make the conversation. One extreme is people just kind of don't dream big enough. And the other one is that they say, well, I'm going to make $1 million, and they're almost recording what they think they should write down, but they don't put the resources in the plan. So I think when you're doing this kind of goal setting, it becomes very confusing internally to how do you write something that has meaning and reality and has actions behind it. And I know you spoke about daily actions, but I feel like there's more you could give us, and we can get it a little bit more detailed on the approach to this goal setting.
Yeah, well, first of all, you mentioned it rightfully so, that we can either not dream big enough because, well, that's not realistic. I'm not going to do that. Or we're just being, okay, dream. I'm just going to say, well, make $1 billion a year. Why not? Right.
Right.
And part of this, what I was mentioning earlier, is the ability to accomplish something is also using your imagination. Partly, I'm trying to think about who I need to be. So if I am thinking about something, writing something down, I don't really feel as realistic, right? And I can't really align myself with that. Chances are it's going to be very difficult to bring that to fruition. So let's just talk in terms of finances. If I'm trying to figure out my financial goals for myself, and you're saying $1 billion, well, you have no concept. Most people, I should say, don't have a concept of what's $1 billion, right? As an example. So what I tell my clients is that maybe double what you've ever made, because you can at least understand and feel what that could feel like to double something. Usually people can do that. And then you can start to align with more the feeling of having that result. So that's number one, when you're visioning something, you want it, because you said realistic. So we want to make it a stretch, but we also want to make it not too much of a stretch and not too much of putting ourselves in a box. So it's that expanding myself, but I have to still be able to feel what that might be like, so I can start to vision it. And then if I was already living that life, who would I need to be today? What steps would I need to take today? And that's something that you can do in terms of in my project management world. I would actually have a plan written out in a project plan, Microsoft project plan, or an Excel spreadsheet now some people are using, or even journaling. right? You can also take and make your plan for the week through a journaling system. But it's something that when you kind of roll up, you have the 3-year vision, and then you say, okay, what do I need to do this month? And you break it into the monthly, which then your monthly activities are adjusted because you're checking in weekly. And then that rolls up into your yearly plan. So you have these plans within plans, but it's very organic too. You don't want to get too mechanistic with it. You want to also have a sense of feeling what feels right for you today. So I have things written down and I have things clear, but I also give myself the freedom to be flexible and dynamic, because you find that ideas and insights drop in if you're not too structured and too rigid with your planning. So you have a plan, but then you're also checking in with yourself and saying, does this feel right? What do I need to do today? How does this, and does this get me closer to where I want to go or further away? So those kind of things you start to unpack. And, when I work with clients, it's different for each person depending on what they want to accomplish and the way that they work well. Some people work better with structure. Some people like to be more creative and flexible and adaptable, but we all have to have some room for intuition, for creativity, for insights to come through. Because if we're always thinking the same way, then we're tending to produce similar results. So there has to be that fluidity and that presence of mind, right? To be really present with what needs to happen in this moment. So there's a lot there. Yeah.
I love about the conversation is how we're toggling between these words like creativity and intuition and dreaming with have a plan, structure the plan, work the plan. Judy, last week I had Elaine on my show and we were talking about all these opportunities, and Elaine works a lot with the younger entrepreneurs. And I was very interested in what she was saying when she was talking. And I know it's something we know about, but it just struck me about how the younger entrepreneurs, when they're starting a company, they're looking at, well, how can I make this work with my lifestyle? I want to go on vacation. I want to do this. And one of the things that I'm seeing, in the olden days, we would call it paradigm shift. We don't use that term anymore.
Yeah.
But I feel as though there is a great opportunity right now to redefine what our work life looks like, what our companies look like, and bring into the mix, how do we want to live our life? Where do we want to live? How often do we want to work? With reality, of course, I got to bring that in each time. But I think that we're entering a new sense of being where you can do that. You can combine all these, and where I'd like to end and let you take it from there. So in many ways, Judy, you're not looking at an existing paradigm and having a visual of what already exists. You're almost having to also create a visual. You're not taking this box and saying, I'm going to fit in the box. You're taking boxes that don't exist. I think we're at the first time in a long time, if ever in my lifetime, we get to create on something that doesn't even have a structure to overlap into, to overlay into. It's a new way of combining the unconscious, the conscious, the creativity, the reality. And I'm just going to let you take it from that and see what you're seeing with your clients and the conversations and yourself.
Yeah, it's not about, or what I'm going to challenge people to do is not just take what's been done already and just, make it a little bit better, but each one of us has a very unique potential, right? We have unique things that we're bringing. Even if we had the same, job title, right? We're going to be doing it differently. So I'm challenging people that I work with and people that I meet to reach into discover what it is that they really, really want that's never been brought about before, right? Because even if it's like I was saying, even if it's the same kind of work, what's your unique approach to that? And every single one, in fact, that's why we're here, is to discover and deliver what it is that's unique to us into the world that nobody else can deliver. And that's exciting because, like I was saying earlier, so many of us just become an autopilot, reactors to our outer world. And that, not as exciting to live a life like that. And I feel like we're doing a disservice, not only to ourselves by not really finding out who we are and what we're capable of, but a disservice to other people who could be receiving more of our potential. So like you were saying, it's not just about reinventing things and just doing the same things again in a different way. But how can I see something I've never seen before? How can I see something that's not there? Taking Thomas Edison as an example, he wanted to create a new system of illumination, right? He couldn't Google that or, how to do that. It didn't exist, a new system of illumination. So he was reported to be sitting in his rocking chair. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, where, he would go and take these, I forgot what he'd call them, but kind of like these cat naps. He would go into he called it going into the land of the solution. And he would rock in his rocking chair and close his eyes, open his mind, and he would have a rock in his physical hand over a bucket because he didn't want to fall asleep. So if he fell asleep, the rock would fall out of his hand into the bucket and would wake him up. He wanted to stay in this kind of open-minded dream state where he could source solutions for creating this new system of illumination. So he was tapping into something that had never been done before. But it's not, you don't have to have that, dramatic example. But we all have things that we can do and create and be that we haven't yet discovered or delivered. And I want to inspire everybody to consider that. And this doesn't have to be some extravagant thing in the world. It just has to be something that lights you up, that's meaningful for you, because what people need is more passion. People get excited. We inspire others by being inspired, right? It's really about you igniting that within yourself. And in doing so, you're going to be helping people in ways that you couldn't just by going on autopilot and doing what you're maybe really good at, or maybe what you've done for a while, but digging deeper to find, even if you love what you do, is there something new you can bring to it that you've never discovered before? And I think that's, again, not only a great gift that we give ourselves, but whoever we're interacting with, we can really, really make a difference for people. And, if more of us did that, there would be such a different feeling, right, on this planet, right? We would just be a people that are living our truth instead of, being unhappy because we're just following what everybody else is doing and reinventing things.
Oh, I love that story. That I never heard that. I love that story. And I love what you just said about living our truth. And if we all did that on the planet. So Judy, I'm going to, that tackle the big elephant in the room. I just, I just got thought of a direction I want to go. So I apologize about throwing you a big elephant.
No,
here.
I love it.
I'm going to throw you a big elephant. So what I am seeing a lot, and I'm going to bring a little bit of my personal belief in, and you take it whichever direction. I think the biggest challenge and obstacle to an individual realizing their dreams is dealing with fear. I think fear is the biggest immobilizer. And when I was in my early 20s, people that listen to me all the time, they kind of know my backstory, starting a company when I was very young. I had such a strong fear of failure. I mean, failure and fear was like right up there in front of my mind all the time. And so I rewrote the meaning of success and failure for me, where I said to succeed is to try and to fail is to not have tried. And what it did is it just kind of got around my little mental a bit to give me the comfort to go forth, right? But I think that we're dealing with, in the planet, especially what we all went through, a heightened sense of fear. And I think it's hitting everybody. So can I throw the big elephant in the room of fear to you and give us some inspiration and words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big thing, is this fear that tends to, I always ask my clients, so how do you define fear? And usually they're talking about the symptoms of fear, but what is it, right? I usually want to get to the crux of it. Fear is a thought, right? It's a thought or a belief. And so we can use our thinking in terms of fearful thoughts, or we can use our thinking in terms of, what do I want? So most of us are, we're using our imagination all the time. People say, I'm not that good at imagining. Actually, we are, all of us are, but we typically use it for worst case scenarioing, right? We're constantly pulling our past and we're dropping into our future. So we're never really living in the present moment. We're either, thinking about something that we wish would have worked differently, or, thinking about the future and what could go wrong possibly. And this is the way the untrained mind works, is it's working in a sense to prevent pain or discomfort or something from happening in the future. So our job, first of all, with fear is it's not about, a lot of people say, well, push it away and get rid of it. It's not about that, because it's there. And so what we want to do is, first of all, be aware of it, not run away from it, but I'm going to say something maybe different than other people say, is embrace it. Because fear is just a different, let's just say a different energy, a different feeling that we have. But if we can actually be present with it and say, okay, I see that you're here, you're trying to keep me safe, but I actually don't need, to be kept safe because I'm creating my life. And if I take practical steps, and anything, really anything can happen, but I have the capability to, whatever shows up in my life, to find a step through that, to transcend that. So first of all, having this practical discussion with yourself that, okay, yeah, things could come up, but some people live 90 years. Most people live 1 year 90 times, which is a scary thought because they let fear sit in the driver's seat. So fear can be present, but we want to, we can keep it with us, but it's not, we don't want it to be driving the bus. So what I'm saying here, and this is really different, is embracing this fear. And when you can sit with fear and be okay with it and accept and look at it,
Yeah.
and say this, and you can actually transform it. And what I mean is the very thing that was our nemesis, that was challenging for us, that was, because it was a stumbling block because I have all these thoughts about what could go wrong, and becomes a stepping stone, because now I'm sitting present with fear and I'm saying, okay, yes, there's these things that my mind is bringing up, but what you're putting your focus on, what is it that I really want? Obviously we don't want these things that the fear is bringing up, but you're putting your attention on what you want, if that makes sense. And you start to take steps and you start to pay more attention to what is it that I want versus what is it that I don't want, right? Because the fear comes from the thoughts about the things that I don't want. So I'm embracing, I'm accepting it, but I'm also putting my attention, my focus, my energy, my action steps on the things that I do want, knowing that even if things come up and I'm taking steps toward what I want, if something shows up and I had a loss of something or something didn't work out, I have the capacity within me to get through that. And when you can talk to yourself and say, yeah, I could, things might come up, but I'm going to keep focusing on taking the step that I can take today. And as you do that, it's interesting, the next step gets revealed, but we get caught up in analysis paralysis that I have to figure everything out before I take a step. And what we don't realize is it's in taking the step, that the next step gets revealed. It's in going to that meeting that I didn't want to go to, that I met somebody that I needed to take the next step. It's in doing these things that the next thing gets revealed. But when we stay still, because we're kind of paralyzed with fear and what if this and what if that, we're preventing ourselves from accessing our potential. And we're also not trusting ourselves that even if something does show up, that we'll be able to get the resources or the ideas or the insights to navigate that fear. So it's really about putting fear in its rightful place, which is embracing and accepting it. We're not rejecting it, trying to get rid of it, because as we know, if we're trying to push against something, it just it stays there. Why? Because I'm putting a lot of attention on getting rid of it when I want to be putting more attention on what do I want to do next, to start moving my my train forward to the life that I want to live, the goals that I want to accomplish. So it's that kind of conversation. You can talk to it like you would talk to a friend, but I want to emphasize it's not about trying to get rid of something. Like you said, if you look at failure in a different way as just feedback, okay, even if something doesn't work, doesn't mean I'm a failure and there's something wrong with me. By the way, there's nothing wrong with any of us. There's nothing that we need to fix. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing broken. It's just about realizing our potential and realizing if something doesn't work, there's just a different way. Like, go back to Thomas Edison. People think, well, gosh, he had something like 10,000 failures. And he was asked about that. And he says, I truly saw that as feedback. And I know that some of these things are cliche. Some of people may be familiar with these things. But if you really take this deeper and you think about it, what could go wrong? Yes, we can fail, but it's in that, and we know the most successful people on the planet have failed many, many times, but they've used all of those experiences as feedback to inform their next moves. So it's a different mindset that we're embracing, right? These aren't just nice, happy conversations we're having. It's a different way of looking at life and experiencing life. So it's, this is what I practice every day. How can I change my perception such that that thought or that belief is no longer controlling me, but I'm deciding, what I want to do and how I want to approach things. So it's a different way of conditioning your mind. we're so conditioned, and we allow that, if we allow that conditioning to run our lives, it just runs us in the same circle pattern over and over. And we can still advance our lives. I don't want to sound grim. Of course we can, but it's long, it's arduous, it's a very linear path. But we can get, if we're standing at A and we want to get to Z, which is our dream, we don't have to go through every letter in the alphabet. When you start to use your imagination, you start to put yourself in motion, you can start to leap beyond things that before, when you only had a rigid thing and you were operating from fear because what if this doesn't work out, you can transcend a lot of that. You can get to where you want to go a lot more quickly and a lot more easily, a lot more effectively. If you bring other things into the mix, other thought processes, other behaviors, other belief systems. So fear is just a thought. And in summary, it's just a thought, and we can choose different thoughts and start training ourselves to think in different ways that will change your life. If you just do a little bit every day and challenge yourself. Anytime you notice a thought coming up that is restrictive, constrictive, limiting for you, say, wait a minute, hit the pause button. We'll have an internal pause button and say, instead of that thought, what thought will actually serve me, in a different way? Because two people can have the same situation. One can be, at a completely, have a completely successful result, and the other not, with the same set of circumstances, because one had a different perspective, which enabled them to come up with new ideas and solutions and steps forward, and, bring new resources to them because they were open to it. So there's a lot there, but it doesn't have to stop us. Let's embrace it and see it differently.
One of the words that I picked up throughout what you said, and I want to make an emphasis on it because many in the audience may not have caught it, and that is the word motion. Anthony Robbins, I always remember years ago, he would say, motion creates emotion. And I'm going to tie in a couple things that we spoke about so far. One of the things that I find is if I get stuck or I start spinning my wheels or I start feeling that fear come upon me for whatever I'm wanting to achieve, if I start a motion. So one of the motions, I think, is having the plan like you spoke about. If you have a plan and you work the plan, it gives you knowledge. Knowledge gives you confidence and power. And it helps you to think through some of the fear because now you have a plan. You've got a plan in place. I think that really helps. I also think sometimes if you can't just get yourself to sit still and get rid of the thought, because a lot of times people have troubles with that, find, and I call it a toolkit. What do you know about yourself? If you get up and walk, does that help? If you go and do some kind of activity, or if you sit in nature, I have this toolbox that I've created. It's song, it may be a meditation, it may be an activity, but it's this toolbox with an array of different things that I know will get me out and get me moving again. And I think the last thing is, a lot of times if you sit with your fear and visualize it in your mind and realize the worst thing that can ever happen, and then see, okay, it's not that bad. We fear the unknown of what possibly can happen when a lot of times it won't. And if we just kind of allow the mind to go down the road of fear and see what is around that corner, we eliminate it. But I think motion and planning and having a plan is so important, which comes back to what you're saying, and it ties in my theme of reality and dreaming. And I think when you dream without a plan and without reality, fear creeps in. Your thoughts on all that, Judy?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're saying, Laura. I agree with you. So it's about, what step can I take today? It really is about it. Like we were saying, it's taking that, when you take that step, the next step gets revealed. So you are in motion. And when we sit, a lot of us will, and this isn't to be negative, it's just kind of how we're conditioned. A lot of us, we don't want to back out of the driveway until we see all green lights. If I don't see exactly how to get to my dream, I'm just going to stay here until I have it all figured out. And what we're missing is the figuring out. The plan is important, but putting the plan in motion is, you have the plan, but you have to start, even if it's not the perfect plan. At least, what's so interesting is, and like you said, with knowledge, you back out of the driveway, maybe you can't see all the green lights yet, but you're in motion. And as you're moving, you're learning. And it's illuminating the next step, because I'm interacting with new people. I'm doing new things. I'm reading new things. I'm getting involved with different things than I was before. And that's, with my business, I learned, I'm learning by doing and getting the feedback and the input. That's keeps things going. And then it gets easier and easier and easier because you start to cultivate a new way of operating. You have this plan, and you're also realizing that the plan gets adapted as you move,
Yep.
as you move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. So now we got another big elephant. And this one is thanks to someone in our audience, Leslie. She has a really good question. And I think we're on this perfect pathway. So I'm going to read it as she wrote it because it's so perfect.
Perfect.
How do you respond to people who detour you, like saying what you are doing isn't working? And I tend to be one that I look at everybody's words as data points. They're all data points, but I have a really strong bubble that I've been able to create over the years, didn't always be there, where I know who I am and everybody else is a data point that I take into consideration. So I'm open, but I don't take words to identify what I believe myself to be or should be, right? But that's some pretty hard getting to. So I just threw my little 2 cents in there. Judy, take us away with the remaining time, because this is, I think, something on a lot of people's mind.
Yeah, there are so many people that, have opinions about what you can and can't do. And, and they are often well-intentioned. However, what like you were saying, Laura, what's most important, and this is why it's so important to cultivate different let's say self-care habits, and having to do with really getting to know yourself and building up your own internal strength, and knowing who you are and what you're capable of. Because people, they're always going to have different opinions, but at the end of the day, this is your gig, right? You're here to do your thing in your way. And we can't live our lives based on other people. Again, we're doing a disservice if we're listening to other people or following what other people want, because nobody on the planet knows what's for your best and your highest good except you. So we have to learn to, and this is really a daily practice, is cultivating yourself. What is it that I want? What is it that I need? And you're taking steps each day to become that. And as you strengthen yourself, other people, it'll be more like data points. You'll hear them, you'll appreciate it, that's fine. Or maybe it's not, sometimes it's not such something you would appreciate, right? That we hear from other people. But you start to understand that, look, everybody's doing the best they can with where they are at with themselves. And they're speaking through their vision, their lens of awareness. And so that's the best anybody can do, is they can speak through their lens. But so each one of us has to really cultivate our sense of ourself, and looking through the lens of who am I, what do I want to create, and speaking into that and actioning into that. And the more powerful you build up your own internal state, the less influenced we are by the outer world. We really start to be able to self-regulate, regulating our own thoughts, feelings, behaviors independent of the outer world. And it really does help by having some kind of practice, such as a meditation practice, which is just a focused inward time, where you could have something guided, or you could just have some time where I'm just slowing down the mind, and I'm just visualizing who I want to be and what I want to create. But that's so important to take that time. And we get so busy with life in the outer world. But what I will say is the most important thing to do is, I mentioned it earlier, the outer world, our experience of the outer world has everything to do with what's happening in the inner world. So, because your perception is your reality. So if I'm really set and I'm really solid in myself, people could be saying anything they want to say. They can't disempower me. I have that without my permission. Right? Easier said than done, but I'm just imposing here that we start practicing really, disengaging from giving our power over to the outer world, cultivating that within by setting aside time for ourselves, time in nature, asking ourselves the deeper questions. Who am I really? What do I really want? Who do I want to be? And that is something that, again, after a while, and you can continually do this, you really start to strengthen yourself, and you can be present with others that are saying things that could be disempowering. And you're seeing where it's coming from somebody who's just not aware. And it's almost like, you have compassion, but you're not getting pulled into the story of it. You're not getting pulled into their story of you, because you have your own story of you that's so solid and so strong.
I love it. And Lauren, if you could throw in the word self-regulate, I love that term, self-regulate. I think that's really good. You know, a long time ago, decades ago, Wayne Dyer, remember him, wonderful soul, but he made this statement that he got 2 letters in the mail. He had this new book out at the time, this was decades ago, and one letter said, "Your book changed my life," and everything, and he was feeling so wonderful and good about himself. And the next letter said, "Your book was not worth it. I need a refund," and everything. And then he felt bad. He said he thought about how these letters had such effect on how he felt about himself personally. I heard him speaking this at a live event, and he said, "I took one letter, I wrote one letter, and I copied it, and I sent it to both." So of course you're sitting there going, what one letter could he copy and send to both? And it simply said, "You may be right." And I thought that was so true. I use that a lot of times when somebody starts talking and they go, I just go, "You may be right," and I walk away. Well, Judy, we're coming to the end here. I want to give you a moment for a summary. I know you've got an exciting announcement of something you're going to provide to our guest. I want to let you talk about that. Lauren's going to make sure all the information gets into the chat so people know how to reach you. But I just want to make sure that I say a heartfelt thank you, because I feel like this type of conversation is so needed, and I know it was very valuable to the audience. And thank you so much for coming on to talk about it. So any last words, and please tell us about how to get in touch with you, what you got happening, and anything else you'd like to share with our audience.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really such a joy to be here with you and all of your audience members. I did want to offer a gift because we're talking about these things about, cultivating, who we are and progressing the vision that we have in a very practical way. So I have a couple of gifts that I think will be helpful, especially in times like this where there are so many competing priorities and challenges and things that are going on that we didn't even really get into. But if you go to giftsfromjudy.com, I have 2 free gifts that I want to offer everybody here that's listening or watching. And the first gift is this. It's a complimentary coaching conversation where up to 1 hour, that's my gift to you. And if there's just something that, first of all, you want to get clarity on, maybe you're not even quite clear how to form a vision, or you you'd like to get some more clarity, you want to do some brainstorming, I could definitely do that with you. Or if you have something, I have a vision, you have goals, but you would like to have some guidance on some steps and how to identify what those steps are and how to change the mindset to be able to move into those steps with greater ease. You can use this session the way you want to use it, but I want to offer that. The time is up now. The time is for us to really lock into what we want to start moving towards that with greater ease, right? So I want to, that's giftsfromjudy.com. You can book a complimentary call. The other gift is an e-booklet developed by the HeartMath Institute with 32 years of research behind them. Some of us may be familiar with the HeartMath Institute.
Yeah.
It is an amazing booklet. Actually, it's about 50 pages, and it's 12 HeartMath tools for reducing stress and staying balanced. And there are some amazing techniques in there that you can bring into a meditation. They're breathing techniques. There's also some journaling pages. It's just this wonderful guidance document that you can use, you can share, because it's electronics, you can print it out or you can type online. But I think it'll also be very helpful for us to really start to have just different tools in our toolbox, like you were talking about earlier, Lori. We all need those tools, and we need each other. It's not, I don't want people to feel like they're doing this alone and it's difficult. There's always somebody you can reach out to. There's just so many resources out there. And I would just say, as we close here, that we're capable of more than we know. And there's a lot of, doubt, there's the imposter syndrome and all these different things that we're faced with. And, but really, when we get still and quiet and we get beyond the mind that's really always spinning and keeping us up here in our head, and we start to really get more embodied and present, it's amazing what we can accomplish. You will surprise and absolutely delight yourself with what you're capable of when you start to put some of these practices in place that we're talking about here, cultivate a new mindset, one that's aligned with, what the result you want to create and who you want to become. There's really no stopping us. We feel like we're limited. We feel like, we're stuck, and we all go into those experiences, but just know that there's so much more to every single one of us, potential that we can tap into. to not just live 1 year 90 times, right? But to really start to live into the life we want, not thinking it's just a dream, but the fact that the dream is a thought that we can bring into our reality with some very practical things that maybe that we're not doing right now, that I would love to encourage people to do. So if there's anything standing in your way, I would say I'm going to challenge you to start today to look at it in a new way that you've never looked at it before. And if you need to get still and quiet to kind of hear some new thoughts and ideas, go ahead and do that. HeartMath has a lot of techniques for that. So thank you, Lori, for this opportunity to share some of this information. It's really a gift to be here.
Yeah, and my pleasure. Thank you so much for the gifts and HeartMath. I'm very familiar with. That's wonderful. And to have a complimentary call with Judy. Lawrence, put your information in the chat. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of responses from the audience. I feel like this has just been a beautiful conversation. I would like to put you on the spot and say I want to invite you back on the show again, because this was such a great conversation. I could talk forever and ever and ever. So we're going to have you come back in the fall and maybe get us going with when everybody has the kids back to school and they need some motivation and inspiration. So Lauren, I'd like to welcome you back. Wasn't this incredible?
I mean, per usual, right? Your shows are always so awesome. Judy, it was amazing. I took a look at those free gifts. I added the link into the chat. That pamphlet you were speaking of, I think it might be like a digital gold, the HeartMath tools. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm
incredible.
like, oh, this is right up my alley.
Oh, I'm so happy to see. I'm a certified HeartMath trainer and coach. So there's so many more tools and resources, but that is a really great start for everybody here. I want people to have that gold, like you said, as soon as possible.
That's awesome.
You can see in the chat, we're getting a lot of thank yous,
Oh, yeah.
Judy. You really have touched people today and inspired. So thank you so much. So with that, I want to say thank you to our frequent flyers that are here every week with us. Thank you to the new people joining us. So happy to have you on the show. Thank you to Lauren, always being my sidekick there with me, and Judy for coming on. So I'm going to let Lauren take over. She stays behind, as you all know, and catches up on anybody that needs to reach out to me or has any ideas for a show. Please just get in touch with Lauren. And to everybody out there, I will see you next week on Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Lori. Bye, Judy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course. For everyone who's still with us, please be sure to check the chat. You'll see that if you are looking for previous sessions that we've had or previous shows, I've included a link to our YouTube channel. It's also got a YouTube playlist dedicated to Lori's show. There is also the links that I've included for the financial literacy series in June, the last session on the 20th. Then we have our sessions through, or Lori's sessions, excuse me, through July. The last one being July 25th. And then she has a session on June 15th. So that's going to be tomorrow. And that one is the best legal structure for your company and what are the tax advantages. So check those out. I will stay a couple of seconds more so you can scroll up and get that information. Thank you to all of you who have joined us. I've also included Judy's contact information, her website, as well as the link to her free gifts. So please be sure to partake. Thank you again for joining us. We will see you next week. That's going to be Wednesday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Small Biz Talk, Solutions for Your Small Business. Thank you. Take care.